Welcome to Gorilla Sports Off Field. I'm Liv Moods, and in just a bit, we're joined by Nate Jackson to talk all things Broncos and the NFL playoffs. But for now, this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. So head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money today.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, hi-ho, the Dario, the farmer in the Dell.
Hey, oh.
Woo! Welcome into another Gorilla Sports Off Field. I'm Liv Moods. That's Nate Jackson. And we had a post-game live last night, but also a watch along. If you guys missed it, definitely check out our YouTube. You'll be able to see the full watch along. It was a good couple hours. We had some really special guests here in studio talking with Nate Jackson about all things Denver Broncos. Now that you've had a chance to sleep on it, what is the word you would use, one word, to describe the Broncos season this year?
Oh, the whole season.
Yep.
Promising.
I was going to pick that word.
I picked it first.
Well, nanny, poo-poo. Yeah, I agree. I like that word.
Yeah. And then, okay, let me throw one back at you.
Okay.
What was one word to describe the game yesterday?
For the Broncos?
Yeah.
I just think unprepared.
Okay.
I think that they had the talent. They have the skill. They have the players. They have the coaches. They have the momentum. But I think preparing for the Bills in the playoffs looks a lot differently than preparing for
the Raiders,
the Saints on the road in the middle of the season. You know, so I think there was not a lack of preparation, but that like mid-game, can we handle this?
Yeah.
I don't think they were prepared for that. And I think that also is just natural being a very young team.
Yep.
And having a rookie quarterback and having a new head coach, right? I mean, Sean Payton was there last season, but we talk a lot about the fact that he really couldn't coach until he cleaned up Hackett's messes. So he had to spend some time doing that, had to establish what he wanted his roster to look like. He did that in the offseason and then was able to really, truly coach. Because I think a lot of times with coaches in the NFL, you're also making changes middle of the year. But when you're having to worry about cleaning up and making changes, that's a very tough task. That's a big ask of Sean Payton last year to be able to turn the team around. So this year, messes have been cleaned up. He was actually able to coach and try something new every week and get cute with it.
A little cute.
And I think the Broncos obviously surpassed a lot of expectations, which is a really great thing, which is why the season does feel very promising. But yeah, yesterday I would say just unprepared.
Yeah.
Unprepared for the big dogs. Like we gotta get this Broncos team beating really good teams, upsetting really good teams, not hanging with the Falcons or the Panthers or the Raiders, who are just a hot mess. Like I want to see this Broncos team beat some playoff contending teams. So unprepared would be the way I would describe it. How would you describe yesterday's game?
In one word, I'm going to give you that one word in a second. But I want to piggyback off the cleaning up a mess before you can make it. Like it's like showing up in a kitchen. You want to make a meal, but the kitchen's a mess.
Right.
So what do? You got to clean the kitchen first.
Then you got to cook.
And then you got to cook.
It's a process.
Yeah, it is a process. I would say one word, and I want to shout out Cedric. What up, Cedric? Exquisite.
What's up, Ceddy Wop? Kidding. That's new. I've never done that before. Sorry,
Ceddy
Cedric.
He's going to change his name to Ceddy Wop.
I think so too.
I think humbling is the word I would use.
That's a great word.
Because your deficiencies really get exposed in the playoffs.
Yes.
You might win some games against the Saints, against the Panthers, find yourself with 10 wins. And it's not easy to get to 10 wins, right? I'm not like poo-pooing at all the Broncos' victories. You beat NFL teams. These are really good football teams.
Yep.
These are the best football players in the world, practicing all day, going to meetings, studying film. All the coaches are kind of shuffled from team to team. So it's an even playing field.
Yep.
But there's something that separates the best teams from the ones that don't make it. And that is what we saw on display yesterday.
Yep.
A lack of a running game for the Broncos and a lack of an ability to stop the run on defense. And so I was talking about this on GSD this morning too. Mike Shanahan told me once that, he was offensive coordinator for the Broncos before he became a head coach.
Right.
That offense that he coordinated was really good. They made it to the Super Bowl several times. And when they got to the Super Bowl, they got their asses kicked. Like humiliated. And when he went back and looked at the tape, it was because they didn't have a running game. The team with a stronger running game always wins in the playoffs, pretty much.
Yep.
And when you talked about that with, with the emergence of the running backs this year, Saquon Barkley and all these dudes who are leading their teams, Broncos don't have that guy.
Yeah.
But they're also not able to stop the run. 210 yards on the ground for the Bills. Everything they did worked. When I see you can't stop the run and you can't run, I think that as a coaching staff, you said unprepared.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't prepare your team to stop the run and run. You didn't practice hard enough.
Right.
You have to practice stopping the run and running to be good at that in the game.
Yeah.
You can't just talk about it in the meetings and go through the motions and stuff. And so I think it was a very humbling experience, but a promising season. We want to welcome in Jesse Montano to the show.
He actually warned us about this.
Yeah.
He's like, listen, I might just join the show and start asking some questions, which we were like, of course, absolutely. Just really quick to your point, Nate, before we let Jesse just fire off whatever questions he's got on the front of his brain here. But I am willing to blindly, if I'm picking Super Bowl picks right now, I'm willing to blindly put my money on a team if I know they have a healthy, solid running back. Yeah. Forget everything else. When you've got Derrick Henry, to me, you're a Super Bowl contending team. When you've got Saquon Barkley, you're a Super Bowl contending team. There is an overwhelming emphasis on running backs right now because they can change the game. And if your quarterback, gets injured, can't protect the football, is getting sacked the whole game, when you've got a Derrick Henry or a Saquon Barkley, you're good for a win. Yeah. Every game feels winnable. It's like what I talk about with Nikola Jokic on the floor. Every game feels winnable when he is there, and that is the impact of running backs on the game of football right now. So, Jesse,
hello.
What questions do you have for us, Jesse?
Well, first of all, just to your point, I was talking with someone this morning about how the Broncos led the NFL in 3 and outs. Mm-hmm. And you can almost directly tie that to what you're talking about and having a more efficient run game. But no, I was hearing what you guys were talking about with they got to 10 wins and there was so much about this season that was learning and building and Bo Nix and is he the guy and all of that. And here's my question to you. Is there, because we see it all the time in sports, is there at all a concern about this team seeing where they are and maybe getting a false sense of where they are at in this rebuild? Because what I loved about this season was it felt like the Broncos took legitimate steps in the right direction. Mm-hmm. They felt like they had a plan. They felt like management, Sean Payton, the team were all in lockstep. And I don't feel like we've seen that for a long time.
Yep. It's been a long time. Yeah.
How does this group avoid saying, oh, we got to 10 wins, we're well on our way, and making mistakes, either with it be overspending, bringing the wrong guys, addressing the parts of the roster that they need to?
So I think Sean Payton, it starts with Sean Payton.
I was just going to say, having Sean Payton, I think, eliminates a lot of those concerns.
He ain't satisfied with making the playoffs and then getting fucking boat raced by the in front on national
He's
TV.
He's pissed off, actually.
He is. So he wants to win championships, and anything less is a failure for Sean.
Yep.
Greg Penner is a reflection of that. Sean Payton has talked about why he's come here. It's because of Greg Penner and the Walton family and the support. So Greg Penner is now the standard of excellence is the same as Sean Payton. Because he just lets Sean Payton lead. So Sean Payton's not satisfied with that. You also remember the Broncos lost 3 of their last 4 games.
Yep.
It wasn't just this game yesterday. It was LA Chargers.
Yep.
Cincinnati Bengals beat a shorthanded Chiefs team and then so really they haven't played well in the last month. Mm-hmm. So that's a bad taste in your mouth. They lost the first 2 games of the season. They lost 3 out of the 4 last games of the season. And in between that went 9-4 or 9-3, which is pretty freaking good.
Yep.
So a lot to build on there, but you play this to win, and especially with a coach like Sean Payton, his muscle memory is we get if it's not a Super Bowl win, it's a failure.
Yeah.
And that end of the season does feel maybe like again, when you're thinking about the grand scheme of building this into a contender, if you weren't going to go all the way this year, maybe finishing the season like that was a good thing for this group, because we talked about learning how to win and remembering what that feels like when you get so far. I think about the Nuggets in the bubble. Like you had to go through that process.
I still feel that pain every once in a while. I'm like, God, but it does. I think in sports, it is very important for these athletes who are competitors at the end of the day to kind of get knocked around a little bit. I think that's why it's a great word to describe yesterday's game was humbling, because there's a lot of things that the Broncos did right, but there's a difference between good football teams and great football teams. The Bills are a great football team, and the Broncos, while showing flashes of greatness, haven't consistently been great for a long enough stretch to where I think people are fully bought into what they're doing. They've definitely made forward progress. They're definitely on the up and ups. It's exciting to watch them. But I think similarly to what Nate said, having Sean Payton, who's a coach that even in a blowout win will still find things to be unsatisfied over, the way that the Broncos ended their season, I can almost guarantee you to Sean Payton was the last thing that he wanted. I mean, while there were great moments and Bo Nix had a great rookie season and there's a lot you can take away from the season in a positive direction, Sean Payton is far from satisfied. Sean Payton to me strikes me as the coach that even in a Super Bowl win would still be like, hey, you're not going to let that happen again. Like, winning, there's confetti falling, he's getting Gatorade dumped on him, and he's still probably finding things that he wants the team to be better at. So
I know the play calling wasn't perfect all day yesterday, but why were there so many people like calling for Sean Payton's job yesterday?
There's
all season long it's felt that way.
Got Paul Schaefer saying Sean needs to self-scout himself, and that's correct. I think aside from throw that up there. Aside from he's not going to get fired. No, he's safe. He did a really good job this year, but it wasn't perfect. And I think Paul is right there that everyone needs to take a look in the mirror. Sean Payton's included there. And I'm sure, once he sees that, he'll see his lips are a little chapped and he's going to apply some chapstick.
4 to 5 licks per social clip that we put out. You can count them.
I hear Sean Payton's pauses in my nightmares. I swear.
No, they're horrible. My favorite thing probably all season long is how every post-game presser he would start with a sorry guys. Anyway, so about the game, it's like, can we get this man a cough drop or 5 maybe?
Yeah. But I think that piggybacking off what I was saying, it's not enough to just say we're going to run the ball. It's not enough to write it on your playlist. It's not enough to say that it's going to be important in this game. You have to prioritize it every day at practice. You have to create very physical practice periods that reflect how important this is going to be. And once you see the period completed and you say that's not good enough, we got to do it again, and emphasize it to the point where the Buffalo Bills did, obviously, and really pushed the knife through the Broncos defense. A defense that's been good all year. And they didn't look good yesterday. And it just shows you how effective when you run the ball well, it opens things up in the play action. And guys were running absolutely wide open in that game because the running game was so effective. And I think this is a product of mistaking the game plan for trying to stop one guy. Josh Allen. We can't let Josh Allen beat us. And you focus so much on Josh Allen.
What about James Cook?
What about the rest of the guys, right? What about the offensive line that went on the attack and it had nothing to do with Josh Allen?
There's a lot of talent on that team.
Because James Cook was the one running through these holes. And then after that, Josh Allen looked very good because those runs set up the pass.
Right.
And so Josh Allen, he made some pretty awesome throws, but he also made some very easy throws that Jesse could have made it left-handed. Are you left-handed?
I'm not, but
and he could have made them
left-handed. Throws,
But that's literally, I think that's what the difference between a good and a great team, right? There's a lot of defenses that probably watched the Broncos and said, if we can stop Cortland Sutton, we're good. We are not there yet to the point where it's like, oh, you stop Cortland Sutton, you still have Bailey, you still have Franklin. We haven't seen enough from those other guys yet to be able to say, again, even the run game, you can stop Cortland Sutton, Bo Nix all day long and know that you're probably going to beat the Broncos that way because their run game is not reliable and or consistent enough to they have too many holes that if you expose one of them, it does feel like it kind of falls apart a little bit. Whereas with this Buffalo Bills team being a great football team, you expose some of their weaknesses, they still have strengths everywhere else that they're good for a win pretty much regardless.
Well, and I feel like it's also a show of the experience, right? Because there was a lot of talk from a lot of people leading up to this game of how will the Bills handle the pressure. They know the expectations on them, the season that Josh Allen had. And that, to me, watching that game yesterday wasn't even so much of a difference. There was obviously a little bit of a talent disparity between the two teams, but that to me was a team that been there, done that, calm, cool, collected, understood their game plan, understood their assignments, understood, to your point, exactly what they had to do for their opponent and just went out there and took care of business. And another team learning how to do that. And I actually think that game yesterday was maybe the best thing that happened to Bo Nix all season because he got to see it up close.
Yeah. And not only Bo Nix, like that was Cortland Sutton's first playoff game.
Totally.
That was Garrett Bowles' first playoff game.
Crazy to think about? Like Cortland Sutton's just been here so long that I'm like, oh my gosh, we really have not. Like, he's a veteran, but when it comes to the playoffs, he's not. That was a rookie game for Cortland. If you want to talk, because we talk all the time about how playoff sports is just different. It's that way in hockey. It's that way in basketball. It's just a different level of what you've been doing all regular season long. It's crazy to think that our veteran on our offense was a rookie yesterday. He had never been in that position before. He'd never played in a playoff game. And then you add in the fact that it was in Buffalo with Bills Mafia everywhere. That's different. I mean, that's another level of one of the things I wanted to bring up to both of you. And now that you're here, you can I feel like we viewed this season in so many ways in a positive way, right? But I also feel like that's mostly because 10 wins. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. That's amazing in the NFL, especially with a rookie quarterback and a lot of uncertainty. But I feel like because Vegas underestimated and PFF and all these other places underestimated this Broncos team so much, every win felt like a really great thing, where had Vegas said, we think this Broncos team is going to be a playoff team, we probably wouldn't have been satisfied with how this season went.
That's true.
But it was because of the way in which that everybody set this Broncos team up. Before we even watched them play a game, there was already a narrative in everybody's head that this is going to be a bad season for the Broncos. So anything more than that.
Why was that the narrative?
I think it was because of the uncertainty attached. I think that, again, when you don't know how Bo Nix plays on the NFL level, when you don't know how Sean Payton and Bo Nix are going to get along. So I'm not disagreeing with Vegas for having lower expectations for this Broncos team, but it's just interesting how when you set up the narrative before they even play, it already trains your brain to think one way about a team when nobody knew what Bo Nix and Devon Vele were going to do. Again, that's where the uncertainty piece for sure plays a role. But I think if PFF and Vegas would have said this Broncos team is a playoff team, Sean Payton's a great coach, Bo Nix has a very high ceiling, we probably would have walked away from this season feeling more disappointed. But because the bar was set so low, so the reason I bring that up is I would imagine next season Vegas will probably have that line around 7.5, not 5.5, and the odds for the Broncos to make the playoffs will be a lot higher. So those losses will hurt more because it's like the expectations have now been raised. So while this season doesn't feel disappointing, the Broncos' job is only getting harder moving forward because now people expect Bo Nix to be great. It's not just, oh, let's see what he can do in his rookie season, and then we're all blown away by how great he is. Now it's like we've seen it. We've seen you go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. We've seen you have really great games as a rookie. Now anything less than that will feel like a disappointment. So that's going to be the toughest part for the Broncos is now building off of what we saw this year. Because we saw a lot of good stuff.
That's exactly what you want, though.
Of course.
You want the high expectations. You want all the fans in the stands because in the previous years there were 3, 4, 5, 8,000 no-shows. Now it's back to being under 1,000 no-shows, which tells me I love being in this position. Yeah, exactly. And the players want to be on a team that's in the hunt and considered to be a viable playoff contender, right? And so and the guys are all saying the right thing. Like, look, I know no one wanted us believed in us to get to this point, but we're not satisfied. We just got our asses kicked. That's not enough. But everybody has a lot to do to get better. I think one thing I was thinking about is the running game. The running game in the playoffs, another reason why it's so effective is because it's late in the season. Everybody's bodies are banged up. Nobody wants to tackle, right? You're going to make it and I'm going to make you tackle.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
You get late in the year and guys are like,
well, your body hurts. This is week, 19.
Technically 19, yeah.
And then including preseason and training camps and all that.
And you're running into brick walls every Sunday.
And it's cold and you got guys attacking you every play, and I got to keep tackling and keep tackling. Defenses love it when you throw the ball. They get to attack the quarterback, maybe make a tackle, maybe not. It's an incomplete pass. A lot of, but when there's a running play, someone's got to get tackled. And everybody's trying to block everybody else.
Someone's body's got to break.
These are violent plays.
It is,
and it's late in the season when guys' bodies are broken down. And so if you battle test your players and your team to be able to sustain an aggressive running attack in January, you're going to bode well. Your chances are going to bode well. Yeah. It's rare that you see, and I know the Chiefs have kind of bucked the trend here, but the teams, like you're saying, Liv, with the active running games are built for the playoffs. Yeah. And the Broncos didn't have one. And so I think ultimately Sean Payton does need to figure out how to shore that up. Mm-hmm. Is there going to be a new running back in that room or several? I think of that running back room, we talked about it yesterday, is going to look drastically different.
Yep.
The offensive line, I think it's good. I don't think they have to make many changes.
Well,
No.
most of those guys are under contract, too,
Yeah,
right? On
yeah.
the
I mean,
O-line.
yeah, I guess the center could change, but everybody else is like
O-line
short up.
did their job this year for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, and they can only run the plays that are called.
Well, and that's not a position that really gets talked about a lot in terms of giving praise. You know, you talk about Bo Nix is hard to sack and he's very mobile and he's super athletic, but the O-line did their job very consistently this season, which allowed for everybody else to do their job very consistently. So
Which was when the last time the Broncos were able to say that about the O-line.
Right. It's been, I mean, again, there's so many good things to take away from this season. So many. One of which I think is Bo Nix and what we were able to see get out of him as a rookie. Because I do think, you know, there's a grace period that's allowed to rookies in the league because you can speak to the difference between college and pro. It's very different. It's a different breed of talent, and you're not the best guy in the locker room. You know, maybe on your college team, a lot of these guys are used to being the it man, the X factor, but then you get into a locker room full of the best and you're no longer the best. You have to prove that you're the best. So we saw that from Bo Nix. Do we want to play the clip from Bo Nix talking about his rookie season?
Just a real quick question, Nate, about playing in the cold.
Yeah.
Because like I'm watching that. Did you ever play in anything? Because it wasn't
that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played in some cold games.
How much more you were saying that it makes, you know, the hits hurt and all that stuff. I always just think about like the guys who aren't wearing sleeves or anything like that. I just feel like I'd get scratched with all kinds of pads and plastic.
You don't feel a scratch.
Screws and helmets. See, I
it's
feel
like the
I
scratch
would.
was the least of my worries. But I'm with you.
You don't get a lot of scratches because there's not a lot of like protruding sharp things. Like even though there are tightened down screws and stuff, they have a little rubber thing around them. Like there's not like sharp objects out there. You know what I mean?
I mean, if you hit someone hard enough, it could probably feel like a sharp object, you know?
It does, but you don't end up with with scratches.
Yeah,
like you know, Nikola Jokic has scratches. You don't really. That's because it's more just impact. It's less. It's less like.
You want to know what one of the grossest football injuries is to me? That the turf burned elbows.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and see, that's kind of exactly what I'm watching that yesterday. I'm like, I imagine just everything hurts a little bit more.
Well, the adrenaline is going pretty crazy. So a lot of the things,
even when you're standing on the side, like the time in between,
you might get to the sideline, you're waiting, you're like, oh, I'm bleeding.
Yeah,
but you don't notice it. You know what I mean?
Oh, there's blood.
Like those things happen when the adrenaline dies down.
Yeah.
But the cold and the impact and the constant blocking and hitting and that kind of stuff, it does wear on you for sure. But the little stuff, the little scratches, bumps, and bruises, those don't really bother you because it's like being in a fight. Like you're not gonna be, like stop.
Right.
You're like while you're throwing punches, you know?
Yeah.
Like I got a scratch, you know?
10 minutes after the fight, you're like, oh, damn. Yeah. All right. And then last question for me, and then I'll leave while you guys play the Bo Nix.
All right.
But you know, you mentioned the running back room, and this is just me.
Yeah.
And I hope I don't get yelled at when I say this. I watched that game yesterday and I said, this Broncos team still has a long way to go. Like there's still a lot that they got to do. And it's why I think this season feels like such a success because it was not an overachievement season, but you know, you defied expectations.
Yeah.
You made it further than you did. You maybe played above expectations.
Yep.
In your guys' just kind of quick opinion, what do you think are the main areas that they need to make sure that they can't say, oh, we got there, we're good, we're well on our way, that they need to stop and say, we have to address these if we want to enter into that serious contender, you know, perennial playoff team and not just it be a one and done. Then suddenly next year you're back to, 6-11 or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's mostly on offense.
Yeah.
The Broncos offense was the weak part of this team. Any way you look at it, even though we're excited about Bo and we're excited about the promise, they didn't all hold up their end of the bargain a lot of the times. And you talked about them leading the league in 3 and outs and things like that. Yeah. And so I think the skill positions need to be upgraded. The running back room, tight end room, the receivers, I do like the receivers. I like Cortland Sutton, but at the same time, a number one receiver needs to have more of a bag of routes. Cortland Sutton is not a route. He can't run every route in the route tree effectively. He's a big kind of lumbering receiver who has excellent ball skills and can go up and get stuff, but you don't see him doing all the routes. You don't see him shaking dudes and getting open and being that, perennial 3rd and 12 target that's going to be open no matter what, who runs those routes like that.
Right.
He's not that guy. I don't think Marvin Mims is that guy either. Would Devon Vele end up being Troy Franklin? I don't know. They might want to upgrade the receivers, but I think absolutely running back room. You need a lead back. You need a James Cook.
Need it.
And maybe it's one of those guys you just didn't give him the chance. But to me, it's not one of those guys, or you would have given him the chance, you know?
Right.
But someone out on the chat pointing out that Sean Payton in 35 games has not had one single 100-yard rusher.
Ooh.
It hasn't happened.
What?
And I think one of the games where it was the closest, it was Bo Nix.
Yeah.
That
Who got
feels
like
That's a problem.
That feels
That's a problem.
statistically improbable.
Improbable is right, but when you have the 3-headed monster, and then you don't commit to the run,
and you haven't committed to, not even Sean Payton struggled to commit to the run, period, but he also struggled to commit to a number one one guy. So it's like,
this is my guy.
We as fans, we as people that cover and report on this team did not. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah. We who cover this team and talk about this team every week didn't even know who the lead back was from game to game. So that's a very difficult position to put your team in as well, because I think in order to be that guy on a team, in order to be James Cook, you have to get the minutes and be used in that way in the games to figure out what your role is and to be able to dominate it. And we just didn't have that. I would say, even though there was a lot of really, really, really exciting stuff about Bo Nix, I just don't want this to be his peak.
No,
he set the bar very high, and
he's gonna be better next year now.
Correct. And so there's so many things that I want to be so excited about when it comes to Bo Nix, and I am so excited about them when it comes to Bo Nix. Every game we saw him getting better. So that's maybe one of my worries, but then I also think about the fact that I think he's arguably one of the best coaches to avoid that from happening.
It's such a great mix of experience with a young player. It's such a nice mix.
Totally.
Yeah, sitting here with Jake talking about Bo. I mean, Jake's criticisms of Bo, and there are very few, but his one was that, you know, on 3rd and on 12, or not even just 3rd and 12, but he has a tendency to want to escape the pocket a little fast instead of stepping up in the pocket and going through his reads. And you saw that yesterday. You know, he would sense some pressure and try to just get out the back instead of stepping up inside a really well-created pocket that you have some time to move your feet and deliver the ball, because your guys, it takes a while to get to your depth on certain routes. And if it's a 5-step drop, 7-step drop, the routes of the receivers correspond to the depth you're getting. So the timing will be there. Yep. And if you hit your back step, and all of a sudden you're sensing pressure and you're getting out, well, you're not even seeing these guys come open.
Yourself a chance.
You're not seeing these guys come open. You got to step up in the pocket, give yourself a little time, and give your receivers a chance on the routes they may be winning, but you're not getting them a chance to win. And that is some stuff Bo needs to work on. And I think he will get better. So, you know, the stuff he did well this year, that's his athleticism. That's not going away. The stuff he's going to improve on is the kind of the processing, the calmness in the pocket, the ability to step up and deliver the ball that all quarterbacks, if they get a lot of reps, improve on. So I think Bo Nix is going to get better and better.
There was one in the first quarter I remember Jake saying in particular. It's like, why were you running out of that? You had a pocket. You could step. Is a sophomore slump a thing in the NFL?
It is. It can be.
I mean, CJ Stroud had a little bit of it.
CJ Stroud.
But then
he's missing 2 of his best offensive players in the playoffs, and he cooked the Chargers. So again, I think it's all about sophomore slump. I think is pretty common, pretty normal. But I think it also depends on the environment you're in. And one thing that I think will save Bo Nix, not that he needs saving, that's kind of a big word, but one thing that I think will prevent Bo Nix from a sophomore slump or from allowing his rookie season to be his peak is the environment that he is in, that Sean Payton, the culture that Sean Payton is creating, which is never being satisfied. And I think that's a really important thing when you have a young quarterback that had such a great start to their career. You don't want to be on a team where they just kind of allow you to fall complacent.
One of the first times you were in the Guerrilla Sports Studios last year, we were all talking about, and I remember saying, I feel like the Broncos have a losing culture, and that's what they got to change. They got to stop being okay with losing. And you know, they had turned over so many guys. I mean, the entire roster from the Super Bowl team. And I felt like that culture was reestablished this year of higher expectations. We expect to go out every week and win, and we're not okay with losing and saying, we'll get him next week. And I feel like that's maybe the best part of what they did this season. Yeah. You guys can go to Bo Nix and I'll leave you alone and stop.
No, this was great. I absolutely love it. But yes, let's hear from Bo Nix on his rookie season. Obviously, a lot of positive things happening this season for Bo. Maybe some things that he wants to work on. So let's check out his thoughts on his own rookie season this year.
How satisfied are you with your rookie season now that's coming to an end?
Well, the simple answer is we didn't win a Super Bowl. So there's a lot to learn from, a lot to grow from. But the cliche good answer would be, we had a winning season. We made it to the playoff. We did something that we haven't done in a while. We competed hard against teams that are really good, and we just kind of proved to ourselves that we belong in some of these games. But the job's you play this game to reach the highest level, and so I don't want to be complacent, and I don't want to ever be just comfortable and satisfied and happy with just something that looks good on the outside. You play this game to win, and everybody's working for a Super Bowl, and we owe that to ourselves because of the time we put into it, and unfortunately only one team can do that at the end of the year. So 31 teams are going home disappointed, but it's a lot to grow from, a lot to build from. I'm excited where we are. Like I said, I'm excited to be here at this time because there's our trajectory is going up. I'm excited for it. A lot of things we have out in front of us, a lot to look forward to, which I'm pumped about.
Listen, sorry guys.
Ignore my pants are a little shorter than I thought.
My co-host here, he had a wedgie. He had to
these
pick
pants
in the
are
middle
just
of the
smaller
show.
than I thought. They're shorter. They're just riding up a little bit.
Wedgie.
Well, there's like flooding.
Preparing for the flood.
Although that's like the style.
But yeah, but like look at mine are like normal when I stand, but when I sit, for sure preparing for a flood. Maybe there's gonna be a flood in the studio.
I hope not.
I hope not either. That would not be good.
Equipment would be
so Bo Nix, obviously, he just I think he's got his head on straight about all of this. He knows.
Oh yeah.
In what was it, 61 starts in college?
Yep.
You learn a thing or two about having some tough wins and tough ends to a season and bouncing back. And with Oregon specifically, Oregon really got great towards the end of his time there.
Yep.
Right? How many years was he?
I think he was at 3 in Oregon.
And
or maybe
his last year was their best. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's very familiar with the idea of how can we be better next season, right? He's been he's had 61 college starts. He's played for different teams. He understands that, while there's a lot of good things you can take away from a season, there's also a lot of things that you want to be better at. And him specifically, I think he knows what he wants to be better at. He talks about it every post game, win or lose. So I think this is the type of guy you want leading your offense. He's got a good understanding of the game, what it takes. And I think the Broncos are obviously in a really great position having him on their side, but I think he's I just worry about it just because of the sophomore slump, he started the season really great. You just don't want this to be the best of Bo that we've seen, but I also know based on what I've heard from him and the culture that he's a part of right now, I highly doubt that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, I think he'll improve. I think reflecting on Bo's rookie season, you got to feel good about what you've seen. Mm-hmm. It's very challenging for a rookie quarterback to come in and do well. You look historically at the difficulties rookies have had in the NFL. It's actually rare that one plays well and it works out, because mostly what happens these days is these rookie quarterbacks get drafted to bad teams. They get overdrafted. They get the teams will trade up to draft them, and it's a crappy team that is looking for a savior, and they put a lot on his shoulders, and it ends up crashing and burning.
Yep.
And so I think Bo Nix was put in a good position on a team that wasn't that bad. It wasn't a last team in the NFL type of situation. Bo was the 6th quarterback taken.
Yeah.
At number 12, the Broncos had the 12th pick because they were bad but not that bad, kind of bottom half, right? But they also had some of the makings of a team that was turning it around. And Sean Payton, after his first season, cleaning up Nathaniel Hackett's mess, started to get his guys in place. George Payton, the general manager, started to align with Sean Payton's vision. Of course, Greg Penner and the Walton Penner group providing the resources for that. So it's kind of a perfect storm, not perfect storm, but perfect situation to build a new team. Sean Payton's experience, 16 years in New Orleans or 15 or whatever. That's a lot. And he'd been in all these situations, and he had successful teams and stuff. So this is a very intelligent football coach who brought in a guy that he felt aligned with. You remember Russell Wilson didn't align at all with Sean
Oil
Payton.
and water.
And we kind of saw Russell collapse here at the end of the season in Pittsburgh and not be able to lead those guys to victory. I think they lost 4 straight at the end of the season, and then this one. So I think we got the better guy, or at least for the future, right?
I
but
agree.
Bo didn't play perfect. He had his mistakes. He came in here and was humble about working hard and deferential about the veterans ahead of him. You remember Jarrett Stidham was the starter, and Bo didn't come in beating his chest and acting like it was going to be gifted to him. He went and earned it at practice, and when he was named the starter, which we all sort of saw coming, but he handled that with grace as well.
Yep.
He's besties with Jarrett and Zach. They all dress in the matching pajamas. They're probably about to go on a trip together to Cabo or something, a couple's trip to get away, which they absolutely should.
Yeah. There's a lot to be happy about.
Yeah,
they should
exactly.
celebrate a little bit.
And so I think
and then get back to work.
Yeah. The on the field stuff wasn't perfect. It wasn't.
Yeah.
We just talked about some of the things he could do to improve, but his playmaking ability, his instinct and his calmness and his demeanor, I think is something you can't teach and something that he has going for him. And so he's the leader on this team. This young team looks to him and thinks this is our guy. They trust him. And that's really all you can ask for. It's never going to be perfect. You're going to get better. Josh Allen's rookie year wasn't great. Nobody really has an awesome rookie year, and that's not really the marker of what your career is going to be like. Your rookie year, there's a lot of factors involved.
Well, also Josh Allen has had bad years in terms of protecting the ball, too many interceptions just the last couple of seasons, and now he's playing at an MVP level and was the favorite to win MVP, and his team is advancing in the playoffs. So there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs for the rest of Bo's career. So the expectation that he's going to be as great as he was this season, every single season in his career, is pretty unrealistic.
It is. And if you think about building a team or the things you address in the offseason, the Broncos have been addressing or trying to address quarterback in the offseason for multiple years.
Yeah.
Those 2 years when we had Russell Wilson, we thought we had it, but we didn't. But there's a calmness in the facility when you don't have to look for that guy. That guy's there. So we want to build around him now. We want to support Bo Nix because now we have him and we like him and we think he's the guy. So how do we make the guys around him more productive and better? And I do think that is going to start in the running back room. There's going to be a tight end, and there probably will be a new receiver or two. But the receiver room is going to be really interesting because all these guys played and all these guys contributed, and they like them all. They like Courtland Sutton, obviously. Courtland might be the odd man out here.
Yeah.
You know, because you have all these young guys who you like who are more of role players. But is Courtland the number one receiver that's going to lead you to the promised land? I think that's something that they'll have to figure out.
I was pretty pleased with Sutton and Bo Nix's connection
this
season because we have to remember, this is new for Courtland Sutton. And you have to give some credit where it's due as well to Courtland Sutton in the sense that he has had a revolving door of coaches and quarterbacks since he's been here. So for him, it's got to feel good knowing this is my guy. I can spend the offseason with this guy knowing he's my guy next year. The Broncos haven't been able to say that for forever. It's been, who is our guy? I don't even know who I should try to build an off-field relationship with. I don't even know who I should be having over for dinner to try, because those things matter. Those things matter in the game of football. We see how I think the culture that's created off of the football field translates on the football field. And so you got to give so much credit and respect to Courtland Sutton for, and that's why I think you took to Twitter to celebrate, guys like Bowles and Sutton, because you know how much they deserve this and how patient they've been with this process. But for Sutton specifically, to even have the connection that he did with Bo this quickly is a really optimistic thing. It feels really good to see him with a quarterback. You can tell he's playing with Bo with the understanding that this is my guy moving forward. And I love that. I mean, it should make a lot of people feel super excited. I also think when it comes to Bo Nix, I totally lost my train of thought. I had something, but
when you think about it, and I'll talk a little more. Yeah, the Courtland Sutton Bo Nix connection is a good one, and you can tell they care about each other. Bo, when they made the playoffs, talked about doing it for guys like Courtland and Garrett Bowles, and they were all very aware that Courtland's been here for 7 years, and this is his first trip to the playoffs. Courtland Sutton reached 1,000 yards here. Didn't do that under Russell Wilson. did it under Bo Nix, the rookie. And so you got to think that they only want to build off of that going forward.
Mhm.
I just wonder what management, coaches, and George Payton and company are going to think about Courtland Sutton being that guy. But you got to give, in my opinion, you can have another guy complement Courtland Sutton, a young receiver who is more of a route runner.
Yeah.
And Courtland Sutton is more of the downfield, high point, 50-50 ball, big dude, big possession receiver type of guy. And then Marvin Mims can be the gadget guy. But then what do you do with, Troy Franklin and Devon Vele, who's comes on? So it becomes, how do we get all these guys the ball? You can't get everyone the ball.
No.
And you see that in the playoffs.
Mhm.
You weren't able to get everyone the ball. And then really the lack of the running game is what did you in. But so many promising things. And Courtland Sutton, definitely a bright spot this year.
Yeah. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. It's about Bo specifically. And it's giving him a little extra flowers and kudos here, because I think it's really awesome to see what he was able to do, because the quarterback is the leader of the offense. We know this in so many ways. Even if it's not their fault, a good quarterback and leader just kind of assumes the responsibility.
Yeah.
And they put a lot of pressure on themselves to lead the offense, no matter what that looks like, whether they're involved or not. They kind of have that unspoken responsibility. However, I think what makes Bo Nix's season as a whole, you're just looking at how many games they were able to win when nobody thought that they would, the way that he was able to keep his confidence and grow every game. That's all without the support of the run game that we keep talking about.
Yeah.
So while I'm sitting here saying, I really hope we don't get a sophomore slump from Bo, let's say we do. That's why you get a better run game. You give him enough around him that if he does have a few games next season where we're like, whoa, what in the world? Every quarterback has them. The difference is the Broncos had to rely so much on Bo Nix because they didn't have the support of that reliable run game. We talked way early in the season about the best way to support a young rookie quarterback is getting a solid run game around them.
Yeah.
Bo never had that. So for him to have the season that he had is a really great feeling as a longtime Broncos fan, because, I think there's more that the Broncos can do to support Bo Nix. And if they do their part in doing that, I think what we're going to see from Bo is just him leveling up every single year. Because there was a little bit more pressure on him than I think fans would have liked to have seen. Because you want to have a Javonte Williams that can get the first down, and it's not on Bo Nix finding Courtland Sutton. That was the game plan almost every game.
Yep.
If it's 3rd and out, where's Sutton? I mean, that was typically his go-to, which in so many ways was successful, but in a lot of other ways it wasn't always successful. So that's where I think there's some things the Broncos can also do in the offseason to better support Bo.
Yep.
And if they can do that, I think they're in a pretty good spot.
I do too. I mean, you look at what Jaden Daniels has been able to do in Washington, and a lot of that is because they run the ball so effectively.
I
mean, their offense is more balanced.
Yep.
They have a two-headed monster in running backs, but and they design a lot of runs for Jaden, but there's a commitment to the running game there that there isn't here. And you could see how that reflects in the play of the quarterback when, they do ask Jaden to make big plays at the end of the game, but they're not asking him to do that all game long.
Right.
And they're setting up
the
play
difference.
action with the runs.
Yes.
And so it helps the quarterback get in the rhythm of a game when he can actually rely on the running game early and it's effective, and bring up 2nd and short or 3rd and short and not 3rd and long where you feel like you got to take off running because you aren't experienced enough to stand up in the pocket. But I think that's going to come. And when you were talking about leadership and Bo Nix, I think he's kind of an effortless, natural leader.
Yeah.
Just because of his experience as a quarterback, son of a coach, 61 starts in college. And there's a vacuum there when Russell Wilson left. And Russell Wilson's leadership style, much different from Bo's.
Mm-hmm.
Much different. And I think even though the locker room liked Russell, he was well-meaning, he worked hard, he was a good teammate, that kind of thing, I think he was never one of the guys. He was always a part. He was always an other.
Yeah.
He had his own people with him. He wore his own gear, his own 3 gear.
His own way.
He had his own office. He was like on a different echelon of celebrity, and like he wasn't inviting the guys to go to Monaco with him, in the off season, that's for sure. But Bo's going.
He wasn't wearing matching PJs.
Yeah, but Bo's exactly. He was not wearing matching PJs with Jarrett Stidham. He wouldn't be caught dead in that. Because Sierra would be like, absolutely not.
Right. I think he felt like he was above that.
He was.
Bo Nix got down to, he walked into this team knowing he had arguably the toughest job out of everybody, just with the pressure that naturally comes with the quarterback position. And you're young. And this team has been used to losing for a decade. There's a lot of pressure in that position.
Yeah.
To kind of flip things around and can you be our guy? You know, everyone was watching Bo Nix under the lens of, are you our franchise quarterback? It's a lot.
Yep.
You know, a lot of rookies are typically just trying to think, how do I win football games?
Yeah.
Bo Nix was also put in a position where he had to think future while he was thinking present. So I think it was a really tough position to put Bo Nix in. Just no one put him there, but that was the job that he had. But to walk in and do it so humbly,
yeah,
and earn the respect, not demand the respect of his locker room.
Yeah.
He went about things all the right way, in my opinion, this season.
Yeah, Russell Wilson arrived at Broncos headquarters driving a lifted monster truck and had a photographer out there taking pictures of him getting out of his car wearing his own jersey and posted those to his socials. Boom, boom, boom. Bo Nix. Bo Nix walks. Bo Nix drives up, who even knows what, with a hoodie on, goes into the facility and gets to work. There was a difference there, and it was clear.
And it's
in
very
the results,
obvious.
And the results showed that. I mean, the way the guys talk about Bo, the way the defense goes up to him after a mistake and says, "We got you." They all feel like they're equal. And
whereas
I think that's
with Russ, it was probably like, "Hey, princess, guess what?
Yeah.
That diva mentality crap is not translating to wins. So, like,
cool jersey.
I'm gonna
cool
knock
throwback
you out.
jersey of yourself, dork."
I will never forget. I will never forget that Melvin Gordon meme where he's just like,
looking at him.
Russ is drinking water and Melvin's like, "You disgust me."
And they went to college together.
Yeah, and I actually asked Melvin in an interview that I did a few years ago about that moment. And he's like, "Oh, they just caught me at a bad time." And the whole time I'm like, no, you were thinking what the rest of us were thinking. You just got accidentally caught in the moment. But I do think there was just that element of like, dude, who are you? Like, you know, we know who you are. You're a household name. You did a lot of great things for your former team, but what have you done for me lately?
Yeah. And ultimately, like I said, I don't think Russ is a bad guy. He's on a team that works better for him, but the future is bright for the Broncos. And, you know, they got 5 All-Pros when they had 0 last year. In the last, I don't know how many, I don't know when the last time they had an All-Pro. I guess Pat Surtain was probably an All-Pro last year, but he's the only one. And now you got 5. You know, you got Nick Bonito, who had a breakout year. Zach Allen, who had a breakout year. Marvin Mims, who made 2 straight Pro Bowls, but showed himself as a breakout offensive player this year.
Yeah.
And who was the other one? There was another All-Pro guy. There was 5. There were 5. Quinn Miners. Quinn Miners is first-team All-Pro. That means he's the best right guard in the NFL. That's pretty freaking awesome. This guy was a D3 player. Who George Payton fell in love with and drafted in the 3rd round. So George Payton has done an excellent job assembling this team.
Yeah.
They can't spend as much money as other teams because of Russell. And so the fact that they were able to do that,
Russell,
not his fault that they paid him.
It's not.
But
I would have taken the money too.
Yeah, I'll take $53 million this year.
I'll take $53 million to drive my monster truck to the facility.
Exactly.
And have my own paparazzi waiting for me.
Yeah, and get sacked 60 times. That's another thing. Bo doesn't get sacked.
Really? He doesn't.
He doesn't turn the ball over. Doesn't get sacked. He was only, he sacked twice yesterday. But he protects the football.
He did a great job.
Sean Payton likes that brand of football. It's only going to build, and that offense is only going to become more, I don't want to say complex, but it is going to be a little more complex as you teach people this offense. It takes a while to understand the idiosyncrasies of it and what happens when you do this. It's a word that.
Thank you. I gathered that.
Can you spell idiosyncrasy?
I can try.
Try.
IDIOSYNC.
You're there.
RACY.
You're there. Good job. Wow.
Guys,
look at the big brain on Liv.
No, seriously, I actually was talking about that the other night, and I was like, I don't know if people realize, like, I actually was very smart. I did very good in school. Like, I worked very hard. I am intelligent, like, outside of sport. Like, sports is my job, but like, my grandfather was he was a school teacher growing up. He was a principal of an elementary school. My mother is a teacher and a literacy specialist. Like, growing up, at dinner, we'd be doing handwriting
Sweet.
books, and so like I'm pretty proud of the fact that I bet I could go to a spelling bee and like shock some people.
Liv, it's clear that through the way you talk that you have a good grasp on the language.
Thank you.
You don't make a lot of grammatical errors. You're very clear and succinct the way you talk. So I think I'm not surprised that you spelled idiosyncrasy correctly.
I actually have never used that word like ever. I don't even think I knew what it meant, but I'm pretty good at the whole spelling thing. I got asked one time when I told someone like I'm pretty good at spelling. They were like smelling.
Smell this.
They said spell onomatopoeia.
Oh, that's a
and
tough
I did
one.
it right.
Okay, that's a tough
They were
one.
shocked.
Yeah.
They were like, "Wow, how did you know that?" I'm like, "There's just some words when you're growing up, like onomatopoeia. That's how I always would say it because I knew that's how it was spelled."
My dad was a teacher as well, and he used to put these like flashcards with like words, vocabulary words up in the kitchen and stuff.
See?
And so I still know how to spell sphygmomanometer. Do you know what a sphygmomanometer is?
No.
You know those blood pressure cuffs they put on? And
yeah.
It's called a sphygmomanometer.
Wow.
SPHYGMOMANOMETER.
Bangers. Mic drop.
Sphygmomanometer.
Basically, we know how to spell here.
Yeah. And then he also put the word Becky up because she lived across the street and I had a crush on her. So I know how to spell Becky too. BECKY.
One is a lot cooler than the other.
No, I know. But my dad, that's what a teacher does. It gauges you on stuff you like, but then gives you stuff you don't really want.
The environment growing up, like I just remember there's literally pictures of me and my granddad when I was young, and I'm writing in a, you know how they have like the traces of like a K and obviously the art of cursive is a thing of the past, which I hate because that was one of my favorite things. It's just, I think it's beautiful. Cursive is beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
So, I've already decided when I have children, they will have a cursive handwriting book that they need. Cool. They need to know how to write in cursive, even if they never
can't even read
it.
Like the kids can't even read in it because they don't write in it. It's like, what is that?
Yeah, because if you see a cursive Z, you're like, what is that thing? But it's like they need to know.
Yeah.
So anyway, I do know how to spell here and there. But you did mention Zach Allen.
I know how to spell here and there too. HEREANDTHERE.
There you go. Perfect. People do need to figure out which there to use. That sometimes drives me insane.
Yeah.
Like I'm quick to notice.
Well, English
that
is hard for that reason.
No, it totally is.
Like there are a lot of rules that don't, in other languages that are very simple that don't exist in English. Like there. There's like a bunch of those.
Two.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So shout out to, I have a lot of respect for my mother. If you're watching, Mom, shout out to you teaching kindergartners how to read and write and also just be functioning members of society.
Yeah.
Shout out to you. Not easy. But you're great at it. So keep it up. But you mentioned Zach Allen. I believe we have a clip from Zach Allen yesterday after the game. We had, like Nate said, a lot of all-pro players for this team. And so let's talk with Zach Allen, who is an all-pro player for the Broncos this season and obviously a huge part of this defense and how successful they were. So let's check out what Zach Allen had to say after yesterday's game.
Obviously came out the game plan to run the ball against you. Were you surprised? Why were they able to run it so successfully?
Yeah, I think they came out with a good plan, and we just didn't tackle well enough. They did a good job kind of winding it back and bouncing it. So we just got to be better about that.
So Sean was just talking about how you got to just fuel you go to the offseason next year. How do you do that kind of collectively in the offseason?
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy. I mean, it's obviously we didn't get the job done, and it stings right now. But I'm sure probably by next Saturday, Sunday, whatever the next playoff game is, it's really going to kind of sit in and get the fire going when you watch other teams play. So, it sucks, but you got to get back on the horse.
You guys are within 3 at halftime. Was it just sort of a reminder just how kind of the margins small when you're playing a team like this?
Yeah, I think that was kind of that's playoff ball. Is any little mistake could just make or break the game. It's not like the regular season, and it's tough when you got a young team to kind of relay that. But it's kind of a little bit of a deal of like trial by fire. So you got 53 plus in there that now know what it is, and hopefully that that leads to some future success.
At the end of the day, these are professionals. These are competitors. I think that they can all look at what happened yesterday versus the Bills and understand what went wrong. It's not like they don't know what went wrong, right? They know they couldn't stop the run. They know that they also couldn't run the ball. They know. I mean, it's not like if we know as fans, they know. certainly what needs to change and what's got to give. I just think at this point, they need to go relax a little, rest their bodies, congratulate themselves on what they did accomplish, but then know very quickly these players turn around and they're right back to work. So I think that they had enough losses, meaningful losses, in the sense that they lost to great teams towards the end of their season, and every game, in my opinion, that they played in was a winnable game. You watch some teams and you're like, they just can't hang. They just cannot hang. The Bills, definitely that game felt like they couldn't hang, just because there's things that this Broncos team needs to address in the offseason. But the Chargers game, the Bengals game, those were all winnable games for them, and they just couldn't make it happen. So I think that they can walk away from this season with a lot of things that they're proud of, but also they know exactly, that's the beauty of where the Broncos are at right now. The issues that need to be addressed in the offseason are very obvious. It's not like you're sitting there going, well, we have our running back, we have our quarterback, we have the skilled players on the offense. Our defense is a top-rated top-ranked defense. It's not like you're sitting there going, what's got to give? We know what the problems are. They know what the problems are. So it's a really great spot to be in, to have a 10-win season. Was it 10?
10 to 7,
10-win season. Make the playoffs when no one thought you would. You exceeded expectations. You know who your future quarterback is, which is something the Broncos haven't been able to say for a very long time. But you also can very clearly understand and address the problems that need to be addressed, because they're very obvious. Run game, a balanced offense just in general. Those are things that I think are very, very fixable. Last thing on the Broncos for you, Nate. Who's if they draft a running back, who do you have your eyes on for this Broncos team?
I don't know. What
about Ginty? He's already wore blue and orange.
Sure, yeah.
He already played for the Broncos.
Yeah. I don't really see
transition.
Here's the issue though with Sean Payton. Like, is he all of a sudden going to change his philosophy and go for like every a traditional running back guy? He likes at least the two-headed monsters. They're going to have to address that. I'm interested to see what happens defensively. I think we're going to see some upgrades on offense. We're going to see a new tight end. We're going to see a new running back, maybe a new receiver. But what do you do on defense? Because this is a really good defense, but you're always trying to upgrade. So where are the deficiencies on this really good defense? Probably in the middle. They might get a new, middle linebacker, even though I think Cody Barton did a hell of a job stepping in for Alex Singleton, who also did a hell of a job, and wearing the green dot and being able to get everybody lined up and just playing really well all season long. Justin Sternad also on a 1-year deal. We'll see what they do with him. And then right corner, I'm interested to see if Riley Moss is the answer for the future or if they try to upgrade that.
I'm going to be honest. That feels like it needs to maybe be an upgrade.
There'll be competition for sure. Riley
and that's not to say that he didn't do really great, and he had an injury and he came back from that injury maybe before he was fully ready, but you know how that is. If you don't just full send it, sometimes you're never going to get back into it. You're always going to feel an ache or a pain or a whatever. So I have a lot of sympathy for that, but it just felt like there were a few games where he just got cooked, and I was like, blah.
But part of it is like you're going to get targeted with PS2 on the other side.
Of course.
And so you have to be ready for that. Now, he did have a really good first half of the season.
Yeah.
And then he had that injury, and then he kind of struggled when he came back. But that position might be someone that they try to upgrade through the draft, perhaps. I mean, that first round pick, it's probably going to be, I would imagine, a tight end, a running back, maybe a receiver, and maybe a corner. Maybe there's a corner you see who you really, really love, and you think, I can get a running back in the third round. There's a tight, because that guy opposite Patrick Surtain is always going to be targeted. He's always going to be gone after. And we saw what happened there.
That's a tough position to be in too.
It is.
PS2 is the guy that quarterbacks avoid.
Yeah.
This season, quarterbacks were completing only 59% of their passes when throwing in PS2's direction. So if you're a coach, you're looking at that, you're looking at PS2 and going, yeah, we're not going to go that way.
Yeah.
We're going this way. So you do have to kind of upgrade whoever's opposite of PS2, because he is setting the bar so high.
Yeah.
You want to have such strong corners on both sides that either way they throw, they're screwed.
Yeah.
But I think teams really quickly figured out we can't throw in PS2's direction. It's just not going to work. It never will. Every receiver that I've talked to or heard from this season has shared the same feeling that their least favorite DB to go against is PS2.
Yeah.
There's a reason he's the front runner for defensive player of the year. So yeah, upgrading his opposite is probably valuable.
Yeah, and it's good to create competition in training camp and bring in guys to push guys to get even better. That was always the case for me. I was never an incumbent starter, but I always had to earn my roster spot. You know, they're always bringing in guys to push you. They're always bringing in guys to push the veterans or to supplant them or to push out the aging guys and bring in young, hungry talent. And we've heard this team called young and hungry, and you're going to bring in some younger and hungrier guys next year. That's how it always goes. And some guys who we actually do love and like on the team won't be here next year. And so that's just how it goes. Each season is a totally different team. This team that we just saw going 10-7 and lose to the Bills, we'll never see this team together like this again. And so I think, you know, reflecting on the season, it was promising, but humbling as well at the same time.
Very. So, I agree. Final thoughts before we get out of here, just on the weekend, the wild card weekend as a whole. Jaden Daniels is continuing to play football in the playoffs as a rookie. He's had an outstanding year, but to your point earlier, he's also got a little bit more around him, setting him up for success with that run game. They run the ball very, very well, and that does alleviate some of the pressures that quarterbacks feel in general, but especially as a rookie playing in your first ever playoffs. It's a big deal. Another wedgie for my co-host here. It's all good.
These pants are too small.
Listen, no worries. You know, sometimes you got a wedgie and you just got to.
What color are these pants? Are they orangish?
Those are
brown,
like a brown mustard.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. I'm like, I want to wear some brown mustard clothes today.
Yeah, like a spicy mustard.
Nice.
He said nice. Yeah.
Nice. But Jaden Daniels playing incredible. I mean, the guy, I mean, probably the best rookie quarterback of this class so far. Bo Nix probably number 2.
Bo Nix was close.
Obviously, J.J. McCarthy didn't get to play. Drake May played on a really, really bad team. And then Caleb Williams sort of was thrashing a little bit out there. Wasn't horrible, but also didn't get supported by a good team.
No, he didn't.
Horrible head coach who got fired midseason.
Correct.
You know, lost the locker room. And so there's just so many problems there. But is Caleb Williams the type of personality that can bring it together? Doesn't kind of look like it. So it's going to need some leadership that at the top with the head coach that comes in and lays down the law.
Lay it down.
Mike Vrabel hired as the coach of the New England Patriots to take over there, and he's going to do just that, right?
I did see that.
And so that's probably what the Bears need. But yeah, Jaden Daniels, very impressive victory last night on the road in Tampa. Of course, Baker Mayfield kind of gave that game away by fumbling on a fake handoff and losing possession at the end of the game there when they were up 4. And so Baker's kind of screwed that. He had a really good season, and he did.
It's very sad to see it end that way because he did have a phenomenal year.
Yeah, and the Houston Texans, I think, surprised a lot of people.
Holy shit balls!
Beat the crap out of the Chargers, but also the Chargers didn't play well. They kind of did the Broncos thing. They scored first, then didn't score again.
That was the messiest game.
Yeah.
It was like turnover city.
4 picks.
I could not keep up. Like it was like every 2 seconds while I was in the restaurant I was in, it was like just the ball was being turned over more than it wasn't, and I just could not. But honestly, very quickly in that game, I was like, the Texans have this because they had all the momentum in that one.
Yeah,
all of
and the running game, Joe Mixon. And then, you know, the Ravens look freaking unstoppable. They looked really good.
I think we're getting Ravens-Eagles. I really do.
I think it's going to be Ravens-Lions.
Okay. I mean, we talk about the importance of run game, and I think Gibbs is doing just fine without David Montgomery.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine what they'd be doing, though, still with Montgomery and Gibbs.
Yeah.
I don't think there'd be a single team that I'd be worried about beating them.
And then there's always those Chiefs, you know, are waiting in the wings.
Frick them. I'm
They're
sick
waiting
of it.
in the wings. Who's going to play so the Texans are going to play the Chiefs.
Yep. Next weekend, next Saturday.
Or no, the Ravens go play the Chiefs.
No, Ravens play
Bills.
Yeah. Ravens,
That's
Bills.
Right. That's right.
Chiefs, Texans.
Yeah, so the Chiefs are going to beat the freaking Texans. Right?
And then who do the Eagles play? Do they play the Lions?
No, because the Eagles are number 2 seed, right?
Eagles Commanders, I think.
Yeah, Eagles Commanders. And then Lions play
Which actually will be a good game. The Commanders play well against the Eagles almost every single time.
And who do the Lions play then?
Do they play the winner of tonight?
That's
Vikings, Rams.
So it could be, wow, that's going to be fun. Yeah, tonight. I forgot about tonight.
And full transparency, the Lions and Vikings played not too long ago, and the Lions won. It's kind of tough to beat a team that close.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
And the Vikings are good. Sam Darnold is playing phenomenal. It'll be interesting to see how tonight goes because you really can't ever underestimate Matthew Stafford in the playoffs.
And
no matter what,
it's happening in Glendale, Arizona too, because of the fires in LA. So there's like an inspirational component to LA right now. Their team, could it be the team of destiny?
Yeah.
You know, doing it for their city and going on an improbable run.
Yep.
Sam Darnold has never played in a playoff game in his life.
You know, here's how I think this is going to go. I think the Vikings are going to win. And I have a very specific reason for thinking the Vikings are going to win. I think the Vikings are a little bit more battle tested. When you look at the NFC West this season, it was kind of a joke.
Yeah.
Cardinals struggled.
Yeah.
49ers really struggled.
Mm-hmm.
Seahawks, very inconsistent.
Yep.
So the Rams, yes, won their division. And with Matthew Stafford, like I said, in the playoffs, you're good for a win when you've got Matthew Stafford slinging the rock. That's how I feel. He's that good, and I trust him a lot.
And Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp.
There's a lot of talent on that team. Kyron Williams, you talk about run game. He's a guy that you just pretty much trust in any moment. But I think the Vikings have faced some really tough competition.
Yeah.
The Lions,
Packers
having
twice.
to face them twice, having to face the Packers twice. I mean, they're pretty battle tested to be up against a team that towards the end of the season, the NFC West was anyone's game. Anyone could have won that division. That's how close and like unserious it felt.
Yeah.
So that's the one edge I'm going to give to the Vikings tonight, is I think that they have played tougher teams this season, and I think they're a little more prepared.
I think the Rams are going to win tonight.
He always likes to be different than me. It's true.
Well, I mean, isn't that what good, content's all about? I think the Rams have more playoff experience. I mean, Matt Stafford's been around, and Sean they won a Super Bowl 3 or 4 years ago. But the Vikings, I think, have more talent. I just think that they're probably pretty tired from that last game against the Lions, that they went balls to the wall trying to win to get home field advantage in the number 1 seed. They lost that game, and here they are having to go on the road. Oh, we're going to LA. No, we're not. We're going to Glendale, Arizona. So the travel plans changed. They got to find a hotel last minute. That's a lot of scrambling. And so I think that the Rams are going to find a way to win this game. But we shall see.
Truly, I think this is going to be a great game.
Yeah.
No matter what, no matter how you look at it, I think there's going to be a lot of excitement and a lot of good football being played.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, you got Matthew Stafford, you've got Sam Darnold, who's playing amazing. He's got Justin Jefferson. There's a lot of talent on that Vikings team, and there's a lot of talent on the Rams as well. Yeah. Which team's got a better defense? Is it the Vikings?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
they've had a pretty good defense.
Yeah, and really, besides the Commanders Buccaneers game, they haven't been really good games.
No,
like the 31-7. So let's get a good game tonight.
I agree. Let's get a good game tonight, and then let's watch the Chiefs cry themselves to sleep next weekend.
That's right.
Really thinking ahead here, but I'm really, really sick and tired of that Chiefs team.
I want Taylor Swift to write a song about how her boyfriend, they lost their first round of the playoffs.
It's that her song will be called "First Round Exit."
Yeah, yellow red tears. Yellow tears on my guitar.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Okay. Anyway, I think that's all from us. Yeah. Broncos season, unfortunately, over, but we will continue to keep you guys posted on content from an NFL playoff perspective, period. We'll be running this show until the NFL season is over, and even after that. But obviously, you've got a whole lot more to talk about when there's actually games happening every single weekend. And we still have some football games to talk about and discuss and break down, and a lot of exciting things to take away from the Broncos season. I'm not feeling overly sad about it. I mean, of course, bummed at the way in which it ended, but feeling proud, of course, of everything they were able to do. And got playoff football all month long, really, up until February, beginning of February. We will find out who the best team in the NFL is. My prediction: Ravens, Eagles. Not sure who wins that one. It'll be crazy, but he's got Ravens, Lions. So anyone but the Chiefs, I think, is how we feel in the studio.
Right.
So
enough of those guys.
Yeah, we're over it. This has been another Guerrilla Sports Off Field presented by Trusted American Mortgage. I'm Liv Moods. That's Nate Jackson, and we will catch you maybe Wednesday. Not sure what our plan is for the content for the rest of the week. I'm sure Wednesday, Friday, we'll get you guys some NFL playoff content. But for now, we're signing off. I will be live in like 15 minutes for a Nuggets episode for Off Court. But in the meantime, have a wonderful Monday. Go Broncos and go Vikings. He's going to say go Rams.
Go Rams.
Bye.